with Renee.
Yo, yo, yo. We wait all week and all day for more. Saturdays with Renee.
All right. What's up, world? Welcome to episode 103 of Saturdays with Renee, featuring Renee Johnston. I'm Jared Ball. Welcome to Black Liberation Media. Please like, share, subscribe, support the Patreon. All the links in the show description. Renee!
What up?
How you feeling this week?
I've been really tired this week. Like tired, like what the fuck tired? Sorry, mommy. It's like why am I so exhausted? And I think it's just the world. Like I think I wake up every morning and I'm like, we still doing this? Like we still living ghetto life on Earth because everybody's wilding. Like
if it wasn't for the conflict between Cameron and Dame Dash this week, I might have been in the depths of it all with you, but that brought me just so much good humor and laughter.
You know what? I need to pay more attention to like the culture stuff because I don't even know what you're talking about. And so maybe if I paid attention, but maybe if I enjoyed the petty stuff more, life would feel less arduous. You think so?
When our guests get up here, I do have a story to sort of open up the show, but one sort of aside from that, in terms of an honest reveal for me, is that this is the first time I've watched a full episode in regular time of The Breakfast Club, maybe ever. Watching Dame Dash's interview, I was riveted and fascinated at all the buffoonery and the capping and the re-narrativization and the false juxtaposition of the hosts as the serious ones. It was bananas. And then watching Cam's response,
they were the serious ones
compared to Dame. Yeah.
Dame is that's why I can't be messing with The Breakfast Club, man. I can't do the tomfoolery, man.
But it's also a my generation thing too, and I was like big invested in Jay-Z's early
like you were
career,
super older than me. You were not super
No. Well, a little bit.
I don't even know if it's a little bit.
I don't know. I don't speak on everybody else's. I've been put in such a cage on that issue in this house that I don't speak on anybody's age. on
I just turned 49. And if I remember correctly, you're about to be 55, correct?
54.
So yeah. That's a 5-year, like you're like old enough to be my older brother. I feel like we're still generational, like we're still in the same.
Okay, but just maybe not relative to you, but for the world's clarity.
Okay,
that was right in my and Jay-Z's whole career from Hawaiian Sophie and all the silliness to his whole the whole thing. So hearing just the whole thing was just so silly. It's so silly, and really, is my point is that it was better than any kind of sitcom or rom-com to distract me from whatever else. And I just spent a few hours in that space and was just loving it. So, but in other words, but my real point is I'm with you, because when you just look at what's going on out here, it's just atrocious.
Yeah, these streets, man. I can't.
Even the tree-lined streets, which I know is the subject. Yeah, relatively speaking.
Everybody's wilding, I think. I've been talking to Samantha a lot. Like we've been getting on Zooms and stuff because she's fascinating. And so we've been like talking a lot, and we both collectively decided like everybody's crazy, and it's like it's just like It's totally out of control. But it's good to be in a space with people who feel the same, because then I don't have to.
It's not intentional, my man. It's not intentional. Not intentionally triggering the ear doctor. Never
Shout
that.
out Air Doctor up early on a Saturday.
Yeah, that is crazy. He must have a gig. He's probably getting ready to get a paycheck from somebody. Ain't no way he's up this early for free.
No. um but I'm finding I feel a lot better about feeling stressed when I'm around other people who don't think I'm crazy for feeling stressed, because they're really people who are like, like, if you just put your head down and just like push through, and we just got to get through the next 4 years, or we just got to get through to the next, like, you know Congress, the 2-year cycle. And people are really just like waiting for the world to go back to like how it used to be like a year and a half ago. And I keep wanting to remind, like, the world wasn't actually that great then. And so like, is that the game we're playing? I just don't know. I don't know. But I feel better when I talk to other people who also look around and are thinking like, what is happening right now? It just makes me feel less like stressed out. So I'm excited for the conversation today. I've been looking forward to this conversation ever since they said yes. I've been like, yes, I can't wait.
Very much so. So without further ado, folks, if you are not already an avid watcher, our platform mates and at least top nominated podcasters from Brokish, Amber and Erica, welcome back to the platform, to the show. Good morning. Good to see you.
You starting early with the BS. Let me tell you.
You got at least one that I remember nomination, top 5 recognition, right?
You talking about Flash's solo work. She's trying to go solo. You talking about her solo work.
No, I'm talking about the Brokish podcast.
Black Enterprise. Remember Black Enterprise?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Top 9 wealth-building podcasts.
Yes.
All we do is win around here. Award winners everywhere.
Wow.
But good morning. Good to see you both.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was about to fight with Amber. This Renee show. I'm sorry. Please
don't do that, Pebbles. I come in peace. We're gonna be nice. Okay? You will be nice to me today, Pebbles. All right.
That is a nice feature of your show. I do admit that when the two of you,
Yeah, when you big, I mean, and I also, I think it's hysterical that Amber sometimes feels so aggrieved, but you be sliding in some slick stuff while you're talking
all the time.
I'd be like, oh, shots fired. Did anybody else catch that? Because I felt that drive by like that.
Sometimes I had it, and I just have to, TLC got to fight back. I can't.
You see how
I can't keep letting Pebbles do
me. You see how she calls me Pebbles. Did I put you on, or did I put you on?
That's okay. Oh, listen, don't make me left eye you and be like, there are 100 points on an album. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
I love
Back
it.
to the show.
I love it.
Good morning, y'all.
Shout out. I'm excited that y'all were able to join today. I don't know if folks
Can I?
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was really hoping I could start with my story.
I was going to say, are you going to start with the story?
Yeah.
Is that the plan? All right, start with the story.
So folks know I am a soccer dad, and my baby girl has worked her way, back onto the field after multiple knee injuries and surgeries for her senior year. Salute. So we go to the game, and part of the context is we're playing in a part of this area where I did grow up in what I think will be relevant later, this suburban Section 8 housing situation, the hood of the suburbs. So we literally had, again, a microcosmic reputation. We were the black, the dangerous, the threatening, that had to be policed, one of a handful of little neighborhoods. And they're literally just like one street, 1.5 street. But since I've left, this place has gentrified, at least around that street, is it further gentrified and gotten, more white and more money. And they have this new high school there that didn't exist when I was there. So it was kind of like going back to where I used to live, but it was also something brand new. The sun is shining on one side of the field and not on the other, like blazing onto the stands. So a lot of the parents, because this is unfortunately, women's sports are not the most attended. So there was plenty of room on the visiting side that was shaded for us to be in a little corner of the little thing. And usually there's no drama. Everybody's like, it's like real relaxed. At most there's some, hey ref, come on, hey, and every once in a while there's something, but in all my years of doing this, there's never been an issue. I don't know to what extent this plays into it, but I did, my standard when they do the national anthem, I stay seated. I don't make a fuss, but I don't stand up. I don't know if I don't know, but I just want to throw that in there that this was part of the context. Longer story short, the game is terrible for us, and we're getting trounced. It's 3-0 at the end of the game, like only a few minutes left, and 3-0 in soccer is like 50-0 in American football. It's like it's a wrap. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear this voice to my right say, "There's plenty of shade on the other side of the stadium now. You all can go." And I just didn't. Oh, I should also say it's very racially diverse. It is very much the stereotype of Columbia, Maryland. It's like their team was mostly white, but had, some black and brown. Our team is a little more diverse than that. The stands, you got everybody's there, interracial couples of all kinds, like everything is happening. So it's a very, but I hear this clearly white woman's voice say, it's shade over there. I just ignore it. Not, nobody's saying it. I'm sitting with my wife. Other people are with their, a few minutes later, out of nowhere, what seemed to me to be out of nowhere, apparently I missed some things that had been happening elsewhere, but I hear her very loudly say, "Get the fuck to the other side of the field."
Oh.
And I just turned and looked at her and everybody over there, and I said, "Who are you cussing at?" And then I said, "I'm definitely not leaving now." And I just
that would have been so my response.
I was like, so we're still sitting there. Nobody said anything to me. Nobody responded directly to me or said anything that I was aware of. I did see this old white man in his retired Coast Guard hat come walking toward me, and I was like, okay, here we go. I was like, all right, he's gonna want to pop off, and but he just looked. We just had our little eye contact moment, and then he walked back again and did the same thing. We just, I was just, I mean, and then he, but nothing happened. And then as the game ends and we're leaving, one of the white women parents on our team I hear her telling that apparently one of their male fathers had said something to her about being on this side of the field. Like, you're not supposed to be on this side of the field, this, that, and the third. And I'm still like, why is this? This is such a wild. And her husband is like, point him out. Like, who is it? I'm still not really fully locked in yet. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I can't believe, and we just start to, slowly walk away. And then I walk up on it, and she and her husband have already gotten into it with this father. A little, I thought initially maybe Somali, he may be Indian, but little brown skin dude. And he's screaming at them. And her husband is saying, don't talk to her like that. Don't talk to her like that. And I said something like, I couldn't help it. I said something like, that's crazy. Or just, I can't even, like, what are we doing? And then he actually reaches out and puts his hand on, like, grabs my wrist to say,
why are you still here this morning? Why are you still here this morning? You paid your bail already?
I'm honestly
how
not
are you
sure.
here?
So I just pulled my hands back and I said, do not put your hands on me. I said, I'm not going anywhere. And he was like, this is our field. I was like, this is not your field. And then the coach comes over, the white coach, beard, gray beard, got to be my age, comes over and he shoves me from the other side of the fence and says, get out of here.
Oh, hell no.
How did you make it out? I just
Jared,
wanna
I'm
know how
so
you made it out.
disappointed because you started this story talking about you was from the hood part of the suburbs.
I
And
know.
I have heard 3 points
No, I
of
know.
physical
No,
contact.
no. I'm saying you count them up. Count them up.
I am so disappointed.
Not to mention the verbal assault.
Yes.
I
The
am.
sports mom in me, I love popping off at games. Like it's like it's my life. I live for it.
Amber, you and me, we are here because
Me and my husband are on some list at the place where my kids play games. My husband done almost fought like 2 or 3 times. I only like 1 time, but if I hear you say anything, what you say it again.
Right.
For the most part,
I don't even have a child on the field. My husband's the coach, but like he coaches the offense, and so I always end up being real cool with like the quarterback's parents, and and that's who people notoriously talk them. Like I almost got in a fight because another family was mocking our quarterback one time, and I was like, that's a 16-year-old child. If you don't sit your ass down, but sorry, Jerry, I didn't finish. I want to know.
All of these are important interventions and questions, and I think I needed a break because I'm having all of the
regret for not kicking their ass. I understand.
Oh no, it is. It's tremendous, Amber. It's tremendous, and it only worked itself out yesterday. It took me a full almost 48 hours. Like I was really, really struggling. But I just do my normal thing in public is a very, honestly, a tactical and practiced response, which is hands go up. Don't put your hands on me, loudly, verbally expressed so that everybody understands who the aggressor is and who isn't. I'm often mistaken as the aggressor, given my size and maybe sometimes my voice, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm not, and then also my hands are up, at ready for what might be next. But I was just the other part of it is I do think about where I am, and I also think about my age and my physical capability and the fact that my daughter and my wife are here, which do play a factor in my responses, because the real goal is for all of us to just leave. And then so I don't know what would have happened had I been just by myself or with a different group. But it was very, very difficult. On the way out, I did see that smaller brown skinned dude, and I did let him know that I thought he was a coward. And then he just started, and I said it so he could hear it, and then he started barking and cussing at me, and I just smiled and kept on moving. But it was very difficult, and I have all kinds of sort of devices that I use to get me to get back to a rational place. But it was very difficult, and it took me until yesterday to really get to like, I'm over it. Even though right now I'm having a little bit of PTSD, but it was a very definitive challenge to my growth and maturity. For sure.
I'm curious about the coach part. So
I missed the part. I missed the part.
Yeah,
the coach from the other team.
No more.
So the coach from the other team was claiming to be, the argument was we were all in the wrong for being on the wrong side of the field and still being on what they kept saying was his field. He kept saying, get off of my field. And I said, I'm not on your field. This is not your field. And then, by the way, and then one of his team, his players, a little white girl comes running over and starts screaming and cussing at one of the women parents on our team. Ooh. Like, get the fuck out of here. And like had to be held back by her teammates. And I said, so I was just pointing at all their parents. Like I said, this makes sense. Like, this is what you produce. I was like, this is you. And then I think a couple F-bombs thrown my way or something like that, and they were telling me to get off the field, but I had to go talk to our coach for a separate reason. So I just walked around the fence, past all of them, and onto the field, like, not aggressively going to talk to our coach, but also like, I'm not leaving, and I'm even more on your field now. But again, it was, I don't want anything to escalate, primarily with my wife and my daughter there. And then, beyond that, there are some other issues that I need to be aware of that might need to keep me from being involved in stuff like that. But it was very difficult. It was just very difficult. And part of my point is just as a segue, into today's discussion, is that I have often for years struggled with how to struggle out here. For me, it's been either I go to Baltimore, or I go to DC and join and support struggles there, or when I lived in DC, obviously it was easier. But having moved back out here, the nationalism is different, the racial formation and groupings are different. Obviously, the class biases and antagonisms are different. And then I'll stop here by saying what I think prevents the kind of unity in out here that I've, in my experience, has been people see where we are as the end result of a success story, and they don't want to mess it up. So even if you're relegated to the relative hood for out here, the idea is I'm not at least in Baltimore anymore. I'm not in DC in the hood there. At least out here, my kids have other opportunities, this, that, and the third. And there's this attitude of what you want what you want to struggle for. We are where we all. This is the end. This is what we all have been. This has been the point. And then it's like, well, no, that's not. And then so anyway, but yeah, I'll stop there. But that was yeah.
I'm curious. Are you gonna create any? Because in my brain, this is where I go automatically, is what would the whites do in this situation, right? Which would be that the other school's principal, superintendent, board chair, all would get an email explaining that there was physical violence perpetrated upon a parent spectator by one of your coaches who you are paying to train students. And the result of this was a young lady on the team cursing and attacking a parent.
But this is club soccer, right? This is club.
No, this is high school soccer.
There you go, Amber.
So I'm sorry, that's another point. Like this isn't even
right there.
Oh, okay. I thought it was club soccer because I was about to say that's why you should fight them. Your baby can't get kicked out of school, but you did the right thing. Now that it's school.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. Since I know it's school.
100%. I think you were absolutely correct in how you responded, because anything other than what you did would have been blowback on your daughter.
100%.
So you 100% did the right thing. Like I'm not upset at all by your. I see Erica's like, but because it gets tricky when you start talking about like the school thing, and you don't want her to lose her spot on the team. You don't want the district to be coming down on her. You don't want the principal asking questions. But this is where you can really turn and do what the whites do, and send an email and CC everybody and make a fuss in writing, because the one thing they don't want is like anything in writing that's going to point out that people don't know how to behave. This
could also press charges too.
Right. This is what always gets me in trouble with people, because I don't hesitate to put shit in writing and be like, we going to explain what's not going to happen when you have parents who you think are just simply sitting on the wrong side of the stadium. So this,
and I would be like, get the other couple, the other couple that you said that they were messing with, get them to send the emails, or you just be CC'd on them. Like, get them to be the face of this.
Erica's more in line with my honest actual response was I am not evolved enough in this retrograde manhood thing that I don't want to call police. I don't want to write emails. I only want one other form of interaction. And absent that, I don't. I just want to let it go if it's not going to escalate.
You have to play this
Or
team again? Is it one of
no.
those where you play? Okay, so
No.
you're never going to see
And
the
this
people
is and
again.
this is my baby girl's
Okay.
senior year, so this is it. So,
Yeah.
but I went through the whole thing of I was like, I'm going to look up their schedule. I'm just going to be at their games and sitting on their side, regardless of all. I was like, I went through a
Petty-luya.
whole. Oh yeah, no, and sort of the way I work myself back to rationality is just to say, well, just keep going. Like, well, what then, and then it gets so exaggerated, and then it's like I'm I start picturing myself like Rambo in the suburban woods running around here, and it starts making me laugh, and I'm like, okay, chill. So, but that is also true. Like, I don't want. Lawsuits and email. Like, I really don't want to do that.
No, I guess my only concern is that a coach
but
felt it appropriate to come from the field
he
and
sure
shove a
did.
parent, and
He
that
sure
is
did. And
that's
this
actually
parent.
right. But in actuality, like in all reality, that type of thing should not be allowed to just let go.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It may not be
Erika would be right if you hadn't been physically assaulted by
yeah.
one of their staff members.
Yeah.
That's literally a staff of their district pushing a parent from another school.
Yeah.
Based on what they thought they witnessed from the field, and that's a step beyond like the approved behavior for someone who's
They
getting
went all kinds of steps beyond. I just don't. I'm gonna see what the other parents do, and maybe I'll support them. But I just don't want to. I just. This is why I don't talk at the game. Like, I don't like for one of the odd things was that for the parents on our team, some of them were shocked because they never hear from me. Like, I'm not social like that. I'm not loud at the games other than maybe occasionally to call out something for my daughter. Like I don't, and I'm not popping. Like, I'm for them, they were like, you? And I was like, because when I turned to her and was like, who you cussing at? Like, that was the first time for them. They were like, they were like, oh wow, that's Marley's. Oh wow, damn. But I was like, it was just such a visceral, like, seriously, who are you? What? And the other thing I did note in my retrograde manhood was her husband didn't say anything to me.
Of course not. Of course not.
What is retrograde man?
Anyway. Well, I'm supposed to be evolving and seeing a different form of manhood, and in many ways, I do appreciate that and want to evolve past some of that all the tendencies that I struggle to
testosterone fueled fury.
Yeah. And so I'm not, and I do see other men who I respect as men who respond in ways that are very calm and appropriate, and I've always aspired to that. I don't do it well, but I think that there's something, and when you know what you're capable of and you know what the outcome would be, you don't have to be all rah. And that's what I aspire to. And I only want this to come out in the absolute necessity of defense, or in, maybe some more politicized, organized, assertive effort. But other than that, I mean, what am I fighting people at a soccer game for? Like.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because people do.
But yeah, it's a struggle though. It took me days.
Yeah, that was a lot, friend. That was a lot.
Indeed.
Especially, the brown man carrying Karen's water at the soccer game. Like,
really?
Just why? Dr. Ball, are your sharing capabilities back to normal now?
I think so. I've put in so many new efforts.
Go.
I think so.
So can we, because I want people who unfortunately are not on top of their life, and if you're not on top of your life and watching Brokish, like, you need to get your life together. But I need to make sure that people are clear on the conversation that happened that created this blessing that they're about to get, because I was literally like, I had to pause it while after Erika said what she said during the show and like take a breath, because I was like, me and Erika having the same struggle. Now, I will say, I think Erika's life is probably a little easier Like I said it, my child, you know, his little ass ain't traveling too far. But you know, just in general, the whole idea of like, am I the right person for this conversation is one that I have all the time internally and with others. And then Amber's response to that was great. And then Kahinde's response was also good. So I want people to hear that thing, if we could.
Yep. Oh, yep. And cued from at the timestamp you put in the run sheet,
Yes,
right?
sir.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
here we go.
The journey when you start to provide and do things, etc., and they see that it's beneficial for their lives. That's the only real way you can get through it, I think.
I think the sort of the issue that I'm having personally, right, is that I don't know what's the best way to say it. I'm a sellout, right? Like I'm I'm in the suburbs. I'm in community with other people, you know, right? Like I'm trying to resist Amber's constant calls for me to join Jack and Jill. Like this is the life that I'm living. So all I can do is talk. Like like on some level, what I have is the microphone, right? Like I have to, and not that I can't, and not that I'm actually trying to think about ways I can reorient myself and my life and my children such that we can be more in community with more Black people to be able to do these sorts of things. But for somebody like me, I just selfishly wonder, like, what can I do besides having these sorts of conversations and, you know, one by one trying to talk about the same way that I had an awakening, how I think other people might be able to have an awakening. But for me, it was just in listening to all of the messages, it was just like, it doesn't seem right that the boat stopping here can make that much difference in terms of who I should be in solidarity with, right? Like that's just sort of the luck of the draw. And I don't know that I want to build my politics on just the luck of the draw. I don't know.
I think one thing we can do is just, I think part of the problem with people like you who live in the suburbs and who, you know, are affluent is I think that we stop telling our story. And I do think that there is an assumption sometimes that there is no solidarity because people see the stuff or they hear a title, this is what I do, or this is where I live. And then they make certain assumptions about you. And I think one of the things that we all need to do a better job of is letting people know what the unsanitized story is. You know what I'm saying? Like there is still very much a real Black struggle that exists if you're telling the truth. Like, I mean, if you're trying to blend, assimilate, maybe not, I don't know. But if you are out here in this world in any capacity, trying to hold on to and affirm your Blackness, it really does not matter how much money you have, how much power you have. You have a Black experience with a white world that is antagonistic to your existence. And I think that part of what happens is that as we change income levels and classes, we get taught to be dismissive of that experience. You know, yes, I mean, do I experience racism? Yes, but I work hard. You know, I think we have to do a better job of being in solidarity with our people because there is solidarity to be had, even when, you know, people like you who are wealthy. I know you have a Black story when you go to the doctor. You have a Black story when, you know, maybe you don't have on your Gucci and your Prada in the supermarket or in the mall and you get followed around. Like, we all have a Black story. And I think that one of the more insidious messages of capitalism and white supremacy is the way that it teaches us as we move into certain places to be silent about that Black story in a way that distances us from the people who don't have no choice but to talk about it. You know,
that is actually the purpose of Malcolm's House Negro, Field Negro, right? It was actually to remind us we're all in the same boat. Some of us have more privilege than not. And in the suburbs, you can still help. Like, I would strongly argue we need a modern day OAAU. that needs all of us to build that organization, right? And also, I always say political education. So a lot of that, the idea there is a distinct Black American, distinct from the diaspora, is completely ridiculous, historically, contemporary. It's not true. And so actually just telling stories that make that very clear is counter stories, right? Like you think about someone like Marcus Garvey, who's from Jamaica, which was actually Britain when he was born, most influential person in contemporary African America, probably. UNIA, the Universal Legal Improvement Association. So tell the story properly and get those stories out there. It makes it much harder for them to say, look, there's this distinct, unique African American, but isn't connected to everything else.
Erika, sorry, this is just one thing I also want to say about the point that you were making. I also feel like, and I do have to say, disclaimer, I am a socialist, and like I think something that's been really done very poorly by socialists in the United States is like this insistence that like socialism is supposed to be about struggling and never having things and not experiencing like a good life, not being able to secure, a life for yourself or live comfortably. That's actually the exact opposite of socialism. I don't know why people frame it like that. But anyway, I say all that to say that like the concept of class suicide, it is a real thing and like it exists. And I think that there's oftentimes a little bit of self-inflicted like damage that's done on people who kind of like have this idea that like, oh, I'm not in the hood, I'm not in the struggle no more. So like, I don't have nothing to contribute. Like, Che Guevara was a doctor. Kwame Nkrumah came to the United States and like went to university before he went back to Africa. Amilcar Cabral was a trained agronomist. Like there's a role for everybody in our community to play. I just think we have to get on the same page about what the project is. What is the thing that we are developing? And I think for Black people in the United States, we really got to start having conversations again about self-determination. And I think that that's something that the earlier reparations movements in the United States that like ADOS kind of undercut, we're doing a really good job at, because within our community, there's all kinds of thoughts. Okay. You do have people who want to join the multicultural sort of US society. You do have people who want to go back to Africa. And then you have people who are asking this question. There's millions of Black people here that aren't interested in going anywhere, but also aren't benefiting from being a part of the like larger US sort of imperial project. What is the idea of us developing a nation where we are? I mean, these are all valid questions, but the earlier reparations movements recognize that like Black people have a lot of things to have a conversation about. And I think we need to get back to opening. That's why I appreciate this conversation. Open the space for us to have this conversation in public, because there's some things that we got to figure out. What is that project that we're building? When we figure out that project, doctors, lawyers, we're going to need all kinds of people doing all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
That was just it was a really good show. I'm enjoying this season. I don't know if anything will ever beat y'all getting on our boy last season. Like I think that'll be a hard one. But this has been,
it's like, not a drop off, at least.
Right. Like these conversations about really engaging, like how do we do this work, I think are so important to have. And I really like, Amber got her shot in when she first started to answer. But I really appreciate your own like self-reflection and honesty, and just even bringing it to the forefront, because this is something that it also, I also live in the suburbs, so there's all these conversations that really make me question, like, am I doing things the way that are actually going to be the most beneficial in my desire to work towards Black liberation? And so before we say anything else, I thank you both for what you put into the world and what you bring to the table, because it's super important. So thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
You see it's ghetto in the suburbs. You see how my internet went out? Look, it's
ghetto. I just want to note my internet is stable today.
Yeah. Amber be having some strays,
Y'all
man.
don't be knowing what this lady be putting me through. She be making fun of my computer, my technological challenges. And, you know, vengeance is mine, thus said the Lord. No man knows the day or the hour when your technology is gonna start tripping. See, that's why you got to treat people right. That's why you got to treat them right. You got to. Amen.
Well, thank you, Renee, for playing that clip, because you know half the time I'm gonna speak for me. I'm not gonna speak for Amber. I can't remember what I be saying on here. So
Same.
thank you, thank you for playing the clip, so at least I can keep my lies straight. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No, it was a
So
very good episode, and definitely encourage people to watch. Sorry about that. Yeah.
no, you're good. But so this is a conversation we have all the time. And Jared living on his tree lined streets, and me currently living on tree lined streets. But so people are clear, like this is my like year 3 on the tree lined streets. I grew up in apartment buildings. So, but this is like for me, this is really it's an important question. Like, and I really loved and I'm about to mess up his name, even though I just read it on the screen for 6 minutes.
Salifu?
Salifu he's from BAP, right?
I think he is.
Right. And so, the response of everyone is going to be needed, I felt like was the perfect, like, oh, you know what? That's like, how would we survive if you didn't have all the people who were doing all the things that allow you to be on the tree line streets, right? Like, you are going to need educators and doctors and lawyers, and because society still has to go, it still has to move forward, and you still have to have the ability to work within the society in all ways, that are possible. So that answer, I think, was really, it was important. It was important validation to the idea that just because you are not broke and struggling and living in the bottom well of of the beast that we all live in, that doesn't mean you can't be purposeful.
So I've been thinking, since we said we're gonna have this conversation, and since the Charlie Kirk situation, and I hate to bring that up, right? I feel like everywhere everybody is bringing him up, and he should just be not brought up. But to the conversation that he was having around this idea of empathy, like, I don't even think I like the word. Well, I do like the word, and I do like what it means, and I just don't think, and this is what I have to tell myself. So I'm talking to myself right now. I have to keep telling myself that it doesn't matter that some of these things I've never been through. Like, I can have, and I do have, empathy for the struggles that Black people have that are not my own. And I think that's a part of what's important in terms of how we move forward. I don't want to be a person that's separated from the humanity of the other Black people I'm in community, like big C community or small C community with. Right. And so I think empathy is a very important thing. And I was also thinking about, like, the one time I was going to the doctor, and usually my OB-GYNs are women, just because, I don't know, I think there seem to be more of them that do the work. But she wasn't available. I ended up going to a man. And before I went, I was sort of like, what is he going to do? How is this experience going to be? And when I tell you, it was probably the best experience I've had with an OB-GYN, and that unrelated thing helped me to understand, at least in that sense, right? He's not been through the things that I've been through, but he's able to do the work, and do the work in a way that was helpful for me and not harmful for me. And so I think about that too when I'm trying, and maybe I'm trying to absolve myself of some responsibility or guilt or whatever it is. But I'm like, I can be like him, like, I'm not in the trenches in certain ways, but that doesn't mean I can't have the right level of empathy or care in order to advance the cause.
I think we also need to, as an extension of that, even people who have privilege in this system as Black people need to recognize, regardless of what our income is or what we accumulate, we are always trench adjacent, though, because that's just how the system works. Like, I think about my own situation, like getting laid off last year. Like, there is nothing that you can have here inside of this capitalist system with any permanence that is going to protect you or inoculate you from the experience of being Black in America, being Black in corporate America, being Black at the country club. You know what I'm saying? And so I think some of it is not necessarily about, feeling a guilt or a shame, but I think a lot of that guilt or shame is fueled into positive action when you recognize that, child, I'm still trench adjacent. Like, these people could pass a law. These people could wake up tomorrow.
Or not even pass a law.
Exactly. And I think the real problem is just that there are a lot of people, I think, who truly, sincerely believe that their position inside of this experiment we're living in is permanent, that they can hold on to it, that they are secure. And I think that security is what causes the distance. Or that myth of security is what causes the distance. It's not the money. It's not living on a tree-lined street. It's not moving. It's the belief that having moved, having accumulated the stuff somehow does something for you that will offer you a level of protection that people who are scraping by don't have. And I think once we all wake up and realize that that is just false, solidarity will be a lot easier.
Don't most people know that if you think about, like, you go into the grocery store and you seeing how much stuff costs, or you trying to pay for stuff for your kids, and you see, like, most of us don't realize that we right there, even if we're not right there.
And I don't know. This is the question I always ask too. Like, do people really not know, or do they intentionally ignore the thing that's really obvious because it's just less stressful?
See, all of the above.
Right.
All of the above. But I also think there is a group of Black people. I just rolled off the
Are you in Jack and Jill with them?
Yes. I'm telling T. But I just rolled off the alumni board at my elite all-girls school, and one of the things that we were having a conversation about is how the Black demographic now is different than it was when we were there. Like, we were scholarship kids. We were being bused, literally. Like, the school hired the Boys and Girls Club to bus us from the south side of Dallas to the north side of Dallas. But now these are like upwardly mobile Black people who have something to prove. Their kids are there. They're putting their names on buildings. And it is like they are trying actively to encapsulate themselves in that world, like to create proof that where they are is where they will always be, to create almost this false legacy of success and entrance into this world that somehow erases the fact that none of that can change anything material about the existential threat white supremacy and capitalism is to your Black life. But I do believe that there is a substantial amount of Black people who believe that once they get to a certain place, that there's a level of security for them, there's a level of deliverance for them, and there is a level of disconnection from whatever their past is, and that their active work is cementing that legacy and establishing that distance. Because I see it. I talk to them twice a month.
These are people that don't know history, because history will clearly tell us that those efforts fail every time. Like, every time you try to build, they snatch back. Like, so that's the interesting part too. Is like, y'all think that's going to work?
But it's also, but still, again, like, is it that they don't know history, or is it that they're actively ignoring history and saying, well, we're a different generation.
We're the exception to the rule.
Right. Mm-hmm. We're an exception. And mm-hmm. Amber, so we've never had this conversation, but I also went to an elitist, all girls, super fancy high school on scholarship, and had to be, I mean, I didn't bus in. I had to get my ass on the train. It was like an hour and a half commute, like one way getting to school. Mm-hmm. It was brutal. Mm-hmm. But you know, like I did that, and I mean literally the school was like, you know, children of diplomats and,
Yeah.
and like that crew. Um but you know, I see it also, like the girls who are there now, there are some who are still, you know, a few, right? But the majority are the families who, you know, are up and coming and kind of whatever you, however you want to gauge like whether how you got to the place where you are right now. Um, but I was also, when I was in school, the one leading the walkouts, the one getting kicked out of
Yes.
his, the one getting kicked out of history
Yes.
class for saying Christopher
Yes.
Columbus was lost and didn't discover anything. Like this, like so, you know. So when I go back to my school, I'm always like I'm the problem maker, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm literally like asking the like, so what are you doing now for the young lady
Yep.
who's taking the hour and a half commute? And you know, it was like we had a uniform and you had to walk into the building in your full uniform. And I'm like, bitch, I'm taking the train from Brooklyn. Like I need to wear my sweats when like I'll roll into the building and pull them off, but it's cold outside. I'm not getting dropped off here. I have to walk the 9 blocks from the train station to get to the school building. And so, you know, it's interesting looking at it now and trying to calculate for how people are so grossly misunderstanding that exactly what you said, this myth of security. I love that you put it that way, right? Like I literally just wrote it
Yeah.
down in quotes, the myth of security, because there's no such thing. There is no
Yeah.
security when you are living in the belly of the beast and you are literally the you make up the oppressed population, right? Like you are a large core of the oppressed population in a place. It's craziness.
Yeah. Or you get like there was a news story a couple years ago where some of the black kids from the all girls school here in Dallas and the all boys school, they all went to Sonic after the football game, and they got treated like black people get treated at
Mm-hmm.
fast food restaurants in affluent areas. You know, they were profiled. The police were called on them. They were hurried and told they were loitering. And, you know, turns out though, these kids were the sons and daughters of judges and prominent financial executives and, you know, financial people and politicians. And so it made the news and all of that. And we all sitting here looking like, do you know how many kids that happened to Friday night after the game that went to McDonald's and got the police called on them and told they were loitering and were pushed along, even though they were spending United States dollars buying things, patronizing businesses? But I think it was a shock to them, because I think for people like us in our generation, at least from our parents' perspective, and I assume maybe your parents had the same view as mine, that education was an act of resistance. And so we were put there with very clear instructions about how we were to be, what we were to do. You know, I joke with people all the time. There was no Twitter when we were saying Black Lives Matter. Like people were calling schools, like we painted ourselves black and we were protesting, and we was the first time I got called anti-Semitic, I was a sophomore in high school. Okay. You know, like the things that we were doing and saying, we were standing up for ourselves, like telling them that they were, you know, being fake, making us go to the hood to do community service just so we could have community service, you know, hours to get into college. But y'all's parents are the reason why these neighborhoods look like they look. Like we were saying those things. And so now there is a grief in me that the education is not accessible as an act of resistance, but it's accessible as a part of how they assimilate. Because these girls are, you know, when I talk to them, the ones that are there now, I mean, it's different. I mean, it is different. There's a different mindset. There is a different expectation that they are sent into these spaces with. And
But we're the ones sending them into the spaces like
right.
that. I mean, we're the parents.
You're right. You're right.
And I would think if anybody knows the difference, like maybe it's just y'all's generation of kids because you didn't come from wealthy families, but if anybody should see class differences starkly, you would especially know that it's people like y'all that got bused
Yes.
or had to make their way to a place that they were not meant to be. And then, you know, so perhaps that's why y'all have such a keen eye, because you had, and I didn't go to a private school, but I got, you know, bust out of my district because it just wasn't fit. And so like maybe that becomes like the origin story of why we wanted to separate from the people that y'all are talking about now, in terms of the parents that are like, we different.
I also think though that people drink the Kool-Aid and think that because I've heard this several times, that they think that just their presence as an affluent Black person in a white space is somehow resistance or revolutionary. Like being invited, being the seat at the table theory. Like I am shocked at how many educated, smart, capable people buy into that lie, hook, line, and sinker. Like my presence here, just as an exceptional Negro, is it that is the revolution. Like I'm here. My kids are here.
And one thing I've noticed just to that last point is that there's an increasing, I've become more aware at least, there's an increasing body of literature that supports that argument and claim that Black wealth or Black existence in wealthy white spaces is resistance, is the legacy of struggle. And Spike Lee's new movie with Denzel demonstrates that too, by the way. It's
I didn't
it's
even
the
bother to do
cinematic,
it.
it's a
Wait,
cinematic.
which one is this? And you know I don't
This
watch
new one
that.
On
on
Apple.
Apple TV with what is it, higher, lower, something like that.
Yeah.
But
That's it.
literally, without spoiling anything, literally the opening scene, the way they shoot the opening scene, it is a complete juxtaposition of Spike from when he was, whatever we think of his filmmaking, whatever he was doing back in the day, would Do the Right Thing and She Gotta Have It and all those movies. It's literally it's a depiction of his ascent and the ascent of what I think he often represents or wants to represent, this Black bourgeoisie that wants to see itself as carrying out a tradition of struggle, bringing Blackness into the most elite and high, no pun intended in this cinematic case, uh, high level spaces. And that's revolutionary. So but the only thing I wanted to interject just very quickly is that one of the, but my issue is that again, that many of the, first of all, many of the Black families that would have, for instance, where I am, been first to be encouraged out here in the 70s, were being encouraged with, again, subsidized housing in the suburbs where, yeah, it's Section 8, but it's 2 bedrooms, central air conditioning, a little balcony, it's a nice little, it's apartments, but it's, and then with that white liberal idea that if you put poor Black people next to white affluence, the middle classness will just pour
It'll rub
into
off.
them. It'll rub off on them. And then their kids, though, many of us would have grown up within that environment, and it's on the one hand trying to be as objective as possible. How can you judge someone from being born there? It's like they're being born there. That's where their starting point is. That's where their worldview is being shaped. And like many barriers facing people wherever they start, to get to a radical politics requires some interruption. Regardless of where you but where there are no overt, like the overt struggle, the struggle is less overt, and then there are no Black spaces that you do find in cities. For instance, here in Baltimore or DC, it's easier to find Black spaces, Black social spaces, Black communal spaces, whatever the situation, that you don't find out here. So to even find starting points on and then again, the people, many of them, whether they were born here or were first to be encouraged out here from whatever gentrified effort, they're seeing this as the success. So it's not even so much that I think everybody's unaware of the struggle or the contradictions, or it's not even that they're thinking the struggle's over. It's like they're thinking this is as good as it's going to get. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to go back to where it's worse. And I do think that has an impact on the kinds of difficulties I've experienced, at least in trying to find spaces that I would want to struggle with. The only other spaces that we now have are that have emerged in the last, I think, 20 years are, we have a couple Black mega churches, or at least one Black mega church out here. But the idea that that's going to be the font of a kind of politics that I'm interested in, I don't see it. But anyway, sorry, just throwing that all out there. I don't really have
it makes sense. And then the whole representation thing, which now like lives in my brain, the idea that like The Princess and the Frog was written by white people and like produced by white people, drawn by white people. They just made sure they found a Black woman to read the lines, right? Like nothing about that movie is actually about Black people. It's about the interpretation of Black people as told by white Disney, right? And so, all these conversations that we're constantly having about the representation, and I'm always like, it boggles the mind that people are still fooled by that, right? Like the argument about the damn mermaid being Black when mermaids don't exist, right? Like they're not a thing. Or people being mad that Alphaba is Black, like she's green. Like like green people literally don't exist. And so, this whole constant push to just be a thing that exists in a space that's not actually meant for you, and is literally using this representation to lie to the rest of the population about what the possibilities and the realities are, right? So I'm still and forever will be convinced that all of these people who are allowed this space to say, look, I pulled myself up, or look, I did this thing for me, or look at me, I'm in this place, they're all allowed to be in that place so they can then tell everybody, look, I did it. You can do it too, when they know good and goddamn well they can't, right? And so a lot of my angst that comes with like my current situation, and like folks know, like I don't have a job. I was fired for my it's a whole thing that I'm not actually supposed to talk about, so let me not go there. But so like the whole situation, when I talk to people about like why I am the way I am, is because my specific position has nothing to do with the outrage I have with how the rest of the world is treated, right? So I always want to encourage people, like whenever you think to yourself, like, like, should I be the person saying this? If you're even having that thought, it means you have empathy and you give a shit enough about people who may not have the things you have access to recognize that life shouldn't be that way, right? It shouldn't be this push and pull of like who has access and who has and who gets and who, like, we should all be able to have, we should all be able to get, we should all be able to survive. And if you can look at life as, your position, it should always be the one of humanity that allows you to say that other people should have the things that I have. And as long as that's your priority, that means you're the right person to speak on it.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Bruce.
No, I was just going to say, that kind of makes me think about what Jared was talking about at the beginning about sort of the intentional work that he was doing internally to be self-disciplined and to be rational in a situation where it's very easy to give in to the irrational inclinations. I think what you're talking about, Renee, is similar to that, because one of the ways I struggle, just sort of being in community with people who are at the bottom in the everyday struggle, is watching them do things that I know are harmful to themselves, making poor choices, engaging in certain repetitive behavior, and just wanting to be like, see, that's why your ass can't do better, because you keep doing this or you keep doing that, or you know, you don't, just because you struggling don't mean you have to do this or that. And it is sometimes hard to do the intentional work of leaning into that humanity and remembering that part of the ways this system breaks you down is it breaks down your ability to think about and make good decisions. I mean, that's by design, but I think that is a huge part of the struggle that people who have privilege don't acknowledge or talk about enough, is that in the ways that we are churched, in the ways that we are raised to sort of put this overemphasis on individual choices and individual actions in a way that overlooks the systemic pressure that bears down on people, right? And I know that that is a place that I struggle, because I'm just like, what you doing? Why are we still doing this again? Like, why are we still laying up with that type of man? Why are we still, why?
I have an idea why they might be, but
you know,
but I think that point for me is an interesting one, because of course we know, and we talk about all the time, how these structural issues weigh on people. But in some cases, like some of our cousins ain't shit and they doing the wrong thing, and you know, it's not because the man or the system. Like, it's sometimes you just doing dumb shit, and that's like, okay. So I do think we need to make some distinctions between people who just happen to be doing dumb shit and people who are actually having to make some very challenging decisions because of where society has put them. And I think those things are different, and we can kind of make the distinction between those instances. But Amber, to the point you were saying about being, you know, trenches adjacent, I think sometimes I have this thing where I feel like I got to pull out my credentials for people to be like, well, before you try to think you know who I am, you know, I feel like that's part of the thing that I do. So I saw on social media several years ago, you know, Jared's the biracial people, that sometimes, or the people who are not biracial, but who look like they're biracial, they'll carry pictures of their parents around, because they be like, whoa, y'all don't come at me. These are my two Black parents right here. And I have that feeling sometimes, and I need to be like, if I were to tell y'all where I'm really from and what it was like and who my people are, you know, but at the end of the day, does it really matter? Like, why do I feel this need to like prove that I'm attached to some story of poverty or struggle or whatever, when at the end of the day, it's just that I have a heart for Black people and I want us to be free? Like, can't that be enough? And I guess that's the thing that I want, because I'm raising these children who don't even have the adjacency to whatever struggle or issues that I have, that they just a bunch of, you know, soft ass kids, you know, honestly, that we're out here raising. And so it's like, I can't make something up for them. I just want them to have a love and a desire for the liberation of Black people. And so really, I think I've just gotten to the point of, how do I do that? How do we engender that in our children? How do we get each other to believe and want the best for Black people and believe the best in Black people?
So just first of all, my father's picture is in my wallet, like my driver's license, just at all times, ready for quick display, just in case. So absolutely. The other thing though is that, so just quickly though, I don't, the point about individual behavior. So one of the things I've always thought is my greatest privilege of having spent any time at any of these elite white private schools is that I saw vividly firsthand the wild regularity, if I may be generous, of white people. And
100%.
all of their trifling cousins and uncles and nephews and brothers and sisters, all of them making all the mistakes and bad choices and doing all the dirt, all the drugs, all the like they're in many ways the
100%.
worst.
The worst.
And yet the societal structures allow them only to fall but so far. And
Yeah.
that's the point that I keep wanting to refocus on. Like, we all have trifling whoever, we all have made, or I will speak for myself, I have made plenty of individual mistakes. But my point is, I shouldn't have to be really any better than I am right now to benefit from all this wealth and all of this abundance. So that's really
For
the only
sure.
point, you know, you
For
know,
sure.
but
For sure.
but yeah, that's it. That's
And
it. But
of
yeah,
course,
they are
bad choices when you're black are different than bad choices when you're
Absolutely.
not black, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we get all that. My only point was that, you know, he not shit, sis. Like, get up. That's all.
But at the same time, as Jared just explained, and somebody said, like, read the Fort Bragg book, which I just finished. Like,
What's that?
yo,
What's the
we
Fort
have to
Bragg
talk
book?
about
We
that
don't know
book.
that.
there is,
I finished it too.
there's,
Sorry. I'm sorry.
yeah, there's a book called Fort Bragg Cartel that is literally about the straight up illegal madness that is being
The next
completed.
time anybody wants to talk to you about black on black crime and gang violence, just point
Oh,
them to
And
the
gosh.
book and say, shut up.
all,
Send a copy to
all the
Boyce Watkins.
And you-
all
Send him a copy.
and it's all like all the things that people complain about when they say, like, why are you with that? I mean, literally, you can tell any of these white women that same thing about they currently militarized husband who is
And
sneaking
do.
money back, who is selling people, who is part of like transmitting drugs and
and
money and
on every
guns
drug.
and on every drug. Like,
As Hunter.
right. So it's literally, and so it makes you ask the question, like, these things are across the spectrum. Like, this is not a black person issue, it's not a white person issue, it's not, like, it's literally, if you are living in this system, you are in all likelihood very much more likely to be on drugs, because who can, like, people need to get away from this shit, right? Like, people need to escape the reality of their lived conditions. And so, you know, I think what we said, what you both said, and actually what Jared also, what you all said was, like, for some reason it's problematic when black people do it. It's not problematic when the whites do it. Right? Like, they have a reason, right?
Yeah.
In my constant scroll on Instagram, I came across, and I think consciously, who, you know, I can give or take him most times, but he was doing a talk about and I don't know where he was. It was just a clip, like a part of his talk. And he was like, you know, what bothers me, this is a shortened version of what he was saying, but he was basically saying, what bothers me is when black people do something, we're all responsible. But when a white person does something, they were the lone star, right? They were like the random, they're not expected to take responsibility for everything that all white people do within society. But black people are always held responsible for all the things that all black people do within society. Like,
sure.
and so, you know, it creates this dynamic where you literally cannot breathe, because no matter what is happening, you are wearing the weight of whatever thing people have cast upon you simply because of how much melanin you carry, right? And so, you know, like me, I go into Newark a lot to do different things. I organize a lot in Newark. I do a lot of meetings in Newark. The newspaper I write for is based in Newark. And I try to tell people all the time, like, I want to go where I feel like my trying to dispel people of propaganda is the most useful. And that's where it's going to be the most useful, right? But I'm not there to tell people in Newark what they should be doing in Newark in their own communities. I'm there to say, here's the larger problem that maybe you're not considering, that I'd like you to consider as you're making this decision about what you want to do within your community for your community. And I feel like that's the best that's the best thing that I can bring to any situation is at least some information, some knowledge. Bring the British kid, every now and again to talk to the people about his Malcolm X book. Bring somebody
British
across the
kid.
pond,
Wow.
right? I'm just teasing Kehinde. So, but I feel like that's the role, right? Like the best that I can do as someone who has decided not to live within the community is to at least do the best that I can to still support the community, because as Erika said, in the end, I love my people, right?
Yes.
And I want them to be free. And I think in the reality is if we're not free, nobody can be free, right? Like
Right.
we're all part of this project. So I don't know.
So why did y'all decide to live not in the community?
Because we had been living in the community and it was painful. The over policing, you couldn't go outside without the cops being there. I couldn't feel comfortable. Like I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like I could not leave and plus once COVID started, and then you're like trying to do what should be like a normal thing, go outside, walk the dog, whatever. And then like everything just felt so pressurized. And I couldn't do it anymore. I wanted to live somewhere where I could walk the dog, where I could sit outside and be in grass and not like at the bus stop where the drunk dude just peed last night. So I have to like watch where I step. Right? Like I wanted some peace, to be honest. And it sounds fucked up. It does, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to breathe. And we tried to find, honestly, like a community in Jersey where it was not so, where it's a little bit better of a ratio, but it's Jersey. Like they ain't but so many spaces where you can have that in Jersey. And to be honest, the spaces in Jersey that have higher Black populations, they're all, they're the Jack and Jill Blacks. And I wasn't in Jack and
Amber
Jill.
catching strays. I'm so sorry, Amber. Why she do you like this?
It's okay. I feel you. I
So
feel
I
you.
just,
I
so
feel you.
on top of everything, we couldn't afford it. Like, and I think that's also an intentional thing. If you want to be in a space where there are a lot of green spaces where you can walk and do things, where you can get on the train and go into the city, and you want to live amongst Black people, you have to be of a certain income to get to that space. And we're not in that income. So, we had to find somewhere where we were going to be able to get all of those things. And it just meant we weren't going to have to live in a place that had less Black people. And that was the decision we made. And then, my son goes to private school. He's on scholarship. But we were trying to find a school because now we live in this place. Right now we were trying to find a school where the student body was more diverse than what he was going to get where we live. And so that meant sending him to a private school, and he's getting a much different, like, diverse population. And thank goodness he got the scholarship, because he couldn't have gone.
Just for me, just shortly, it's interesting. I wanted desperately to stay in DC where I was living when we got married, but we had no money. I was at the very beginning of my career. My wife was at the very early stages of her career. None of us were making any money. I think our household income wasn't even like 40,000. Like we were not making, and so to stay in DC, the only place we could get that was livable was pretty much in the hood in Northeast DC. Salute to Deanwood, and we stayed there for a few years. But once we got a little bit more situated in our career and started to have our children, we were like, this is not the environment. Just frankly, this wasn't. I wouldn't want to, like, it was a little bit wild over there, and it was like we weren't. And then the other part, just a little bit, not to be over personal, but that we weren't from that community, so it wasn't. It's like it's like if people are trying to get out of that neighborhood eventually, and you're moving into that neighborhood because it's the only place in the city you can afford, like it was a little bit of tension, with the community there. um but then there was also just, the need to be closer to my aging mother, to my wife's family. We needed help once the baby started getting. I was like, man, we need help. So it was easier to move to where we are now. And then even within that, we've moved since then, because the initial, and it's funny because our children thought, they were like, when we moved to where we are now, they thought we had taken them out of the not the hood, but a much more vibrant black and brown neighborhood of townhouses and apartments next door and stuff like that. But my wife and I were like, we wanted to, for the first time in our lives, experience a single family home. Neither of us had ever lived in one. So we were like, we can finally do it. And then even that, there's levels to that. Like now I'm looking at the other neighbors. I'm like, damn, this. I'm like it's never ending. Like, it's like, like my kids go to their friends' houses who have like what I consider real money. And they come back looking at it. They're like, I mean, I like our house, but good God, so-and-so's house is such and such, like the real black bourgeoisie. And I'm like, so it's, but anyway, but that was really it. I mean, that was, and where my mother was living. So that's what's also a little weird for me, is that my experience living in the suburbs was, again, in the poor part of the suburbs. Like, so where my mother was living was up until very recently was considered a blighted neighborhood, where there's only they even got rid of the grocery store and the pharmacy. It's like there's no bank. It's like a liquor store, the gas station. And now they have like an international market and a police substation. So it's like, but anyway, but it's still not, relatively speaking, what other communities are in neighboring cities and whatnot, and elsewhere in the country and so on. So, but that's ultimately why those were the factors why we ended up choosing to be where we ended up being now.
Yeah. I grew up in hood adjacent suburbs too. And I mean, I lived in the type of neighborhood where it started out where the new construction builder was catering to white people. And then once the white flight started to happen, they just abandoned the project. That we were supposed to have a pool in our neighborhood and parks, and all of that went away when they realized they was going to be selling these homes to black people. But it was still nice. My parents, who grew up in wood frame homes, they had a brick house, shout out to Lancaster, Wellington Park. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. But I think that was, for me, what the appeal of the suburbs was. I always lived in a suburb. And so I wanted to stay in the suburbs. And then when I moved to a very, very white suburb in Dallas, it was fine at first when it was rural, but when it became very like Tea Party, MAGA, in the neighborhood groups, like, we're buying Blue Lives Matter sign in bulk. If you want one, comment so we can, like, I was like, I got to get out of here.
At least in Maryland, I got the liberals.
Yeah, no, like I can't do this. Like this was crazy.
Like, do you want a Black Lives Matter sign, Jared?
Oh no! Like, people would write in the neighborhood group, like, the gym smells like curry. Like, I mean, awful stuff. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And so we were trying to stay in the suburbs, but I couldn't do that anymore. So when we found where we live now, like where the schools are like 17% black and we have black and brown neighbors. It is, girl. I sent you the statistic. Don't be doing that.
I'm not saying they not. I'm just saying, I don't know if your white people are different. I think you got the same white people.
Yes. Also, my neighborhood Facebook group now, we just had a civil war in our neighborhood. We now have 2 Facebook groups because somebody tried to organize a march for Charlie Kirk in our Facebook group in our neighborhood. Oof. And that went sideways, like, because it was me and a few other keyboard gangsters, like, I don't believe in hell, but I wouldn't be sad if he was charbroiling there. You know, like we was, you know, just you know. So it was crazy. So now there's a whole separate Facebook group for our neighborhood now. But part of me was proud because there was so many people like, why is this here? Like we don't need, this is not a political group, move that elsewhere. And I mean they did. They started their freedom of speech page. It's called freedom of speech page for our neighborhood. Yeah, yes. But I just knew, you know, staying in Dallas proper with 37 kids on IEPs with special needs, like I just couldn't afford to give them the resources they would need to be successful in the schools. And so I was like, well, I got to go somewhere where they got good schools, where these kids with all these neurodivergences can get what they need. Because I'm still paying for my school. I can't pay for them to go to school too. Like, you know, and so there definitely is a tension about it. But I think in some regard, you kind of chase what you had. And I like the suburbs. I like open space and brick walls around my neighborhood. That's terrible, but I do. I do.
It's okay, Amber. Just sit in it. It's okay.
I do.
I mean, I'm from the city. I'm from Houston for real. But like I've been in the suburbs a long time, and I think that's one of the things that you have to do is you have to try to be as intentional as you can be, right? Because you're making the best choices that you can with the options that are available to you. You try to go into Dallas, and it is very expensive to find a place that has schools that are not closing because they be closing all the schools. So it's like all these other things trying to go around. So I was trying to find where are the whites that I can tolerate, like literally trying to figure that part out, trying to figure out where are the places that are reasonably diverse and that looks different here than in other places. And so I actually ended up with a very good situation considering the district is one where I don't feel like it's taken over by MAGA or anything like that. So, but you just have to make the best choices you can. And so I didn't run to the suburbs because I think the suburbs is better. Honestly, sometimes it's just easier, sadly. Like it's just easier to curate what you're trying to do in the suburbs.
Right. And I think people, like I see some judgment happening in the chat, and I know you all have a time limit and you have to go soon. So, but like I want people to also understand, like when you pick where you're going to live, there are other factors, right? Like we also had to stay within a certain distance of our jobs at the time. Like we were commuting to New Jersey to go to work. So the reason we picked New Jersey when we started to decide where we were going to move to was because I was like, we can save some tolls. Instead of moving to another place in New York, we can move to New Jersey and save the toll of going back and forth between New York and New Jersey. Because just for people who don't know, it's $20 to cross one crossing. One crossing, right? So that don't count, you know, if you have to get through when you had to go into Manhattan to go through that crossing. So it was like a $30-something trip every day to go to work. So part of when we were trying to move was, okay, so where can we go that's like close enough to where we're commuting to so that we can save the toll. So that's why we picked New Jersey.
No, that's so real, you know, because where we are, that's the same kind of thing. Like there aren't any freeways around here. Like you pay, like some of it is like you pay just to do it. Every road is a toll road. Like
where you are,
you got to pay for that. And then the way that they build the cities, Renee, is the same. Like here in Dallas, all of the employers are in North Dallas and all the Black people are in South Dallas. So it was also like, we do want to live north of Dallas so that we can get access to the jobs because you don't know where you're going to be working. So yes, absolutely.
Right. So all of those things play a role. So I think it's very easy to be like, you know, I'm sure you could have found a neighborhood, you know, listen, could we have? I don't, honestly, it took us a year to find the house that we finally found and moved to. This was not a short process. It took a really long time. And I don't want anyone to take this as like me defending the decision. Like, fuck y'all. Like, we live where we live, right? Because we found a house that was affordable, where I could walk to the park, where I could sit outside and be surrounded by green stuff, where I could get on the train and go into New Jersey, where we could walk downtown and get ice cream and food. Like, we found a place where we thought we were going to be comfortable. And I am surrounded by liberals, right? Like, so I can at least, like, for the most part, live and know that, like, in my neighborhood, and it's a semi-mixed neighborhood. We're not the only Black family. We're not the only non-white family. So, like, these were all parts of the discussion. But in the end, you want to live somewhere where you feel like you can walk outside your door and feel comfortable outside your house. And it's really that simple, right?
And can
Like,
we
whatever
also
that
talk
means
about?
to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought, Renee.
No, I'm just saying, like, whatever that means for you is what it means. Like,
Yeah.
you make the decision. You can only make the decision that you have to make in the moment that you have to make it. That's all you're free to do, is make that decision in that moment. And people have to do what they can do for themselves and their
Right.
family. And, like, for real, like, judge me if you want to, whatever. But in the end, I do as much as I can do to make sure that people are clear that I love my people, and that at the end, my
That
goal
part.
is liberation for all of us. And that's it. Like, it's that simple.
And I'll just tell you, I don't know, Erika, if you have this issue in Dallas as well. Just being a part of the gentrification train in Dallas did not sit well with me. Like, to me, it was just like, I don't want to, puff my chest out. Oh, I live in Oak Cliff. I bought a house in North Oak Cliff that, is on a lot that, some We Buy Ugly Houses person swiped from a Black family for $3,000 or $4,000 because he found them at their lowest. Like, there was just a lot of that just didn't sit right with me. Like, realtors, when I first started looking for a house in my first marriage, when we were looking, the realtor was taking us to places like in Dallas where we would get potential for equity increases, so a lot of North Oak Cliff, a lot of West Dallas, areas that have been historically overwhelmingly Black, overwhelmingly forgotten about, but they were gentrifying. And that did not feel right to me. That did not feel like a pro-Black decision to me, to just be able to say, oh, I live in West Dallas, so, I'm going to buy a house near Trinity Bottoms and watch what they're literally doing, how they're literally destroying Black communities, but to have some credibility that I remained in the city. It did not feel right to me. I never got a good feeling about it. I didn't like it. I was like, I'd rather go out here and get me a new home construction from this company that done, cleared out some farmland. Like, I don't know. I never got a good feeling about being able to say I lived proximate to my people, but doing it any old kind of way. Like, I don't know. That never felt right to me.
And not for nothing, I grew up in Flatbush, y'all. Like, I grew up in Flatbush. Like, and where I grew up in Flatbush is still Little Caribbean. Like, as much as they want so badly to, like, take it over, is that, like, they're not getting the folks out who already live there. And so I grew up with people literally getting shot down the street. I grew up with like having to navigate how I was going to walk home because I can see them dealing drugs on that corner and I don't want to get caught up in the drive-by. Like, there's like, I grew up in that, right? And so I don't want my son to grow up in that. And y'all can judge it if you want to. I didn't love it. So why would I want my child to live that? It's not, we don't need to do that, and therefore we're not doing that. And so, in the end, again, anybody who wants to judge it, I would like to know what you were doing this past week when I was organizing for the Green Party, when I was making sure that folks got the information they needed from the book talk that we did, when I was organizing the next book talk that we're doing, when we were trying to figure out how we were going to reschedule our other book talk because the author got COVID, how I was setting up what I needed to set up because we're doing a whole drive to gather over 1,000 items to give to the Returning Citizens group. Like, when you're doing all of that shit, then you can come and let me know why where I live is wrong.
And we're not doing all that, Renee. I can tell you that. We're not doing all that. But I think this is the part where, for me, the guilt comes, because it is like, what more can we be doing, right? So Amber and I get on here on the 1st and the 15th, except the 2 or 3 months she make us be off, right? So we here trying to talk to the people about whatever we're trying to talk to the people about, but it's always like, is that enough, right? Because we're doing it from the safety of the suburb, the supposed safety of the suburbs. And so that's the thing for me, is that, and I'm not looking for anybody to absolve me of anything, but I do feel like, ooh, I want the liberation of Black people. I love Black people, for real, I do. But what else can I be doing? Because this can't be all of it.
Well, you on my list, Erika, just so you know. You don't.
Is it a shit list? What kind of list
No,
you got, Renee?
no.
Oh.
And Amber is too. So she's smiling, but y'all are both on my list because I'd like us to do like a thing. But I'm gonna circle back. I'm gonna circle back to you. But it's gonna be virtual because I can't afford to fly y'all nowhere. But we're gonna work it out. We're gonna work it out.
I got a job now, so I might be able to get my own little plane ticket.
There we go.
Okay. I mean, one thing I wanted to just make sure I added before we left is that all of this focus on personal decisions and individual choices is part of what the problem is. And what I think we all, it's in some ways an extension of what I even heard you all talk about on the show briefly, in passing at least, with Kehindi's reference to the field and the house slave metaphor from Malcolm. But it's an exaggeration, I think, and an oversimplification that everybody in all Black community spaces are revolutionary and everybody in the suburbs are sellouts. And it's as if, and everybody who was in these Black communities is there by choice and wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And if they didn't have a chance to go live somewhere else, that they wouldn't do it. And if is it realistic that if you do have you're gonna move yourself back into these, in other words, I think there's a lot of disingenuousness around those kinds of discussions. So, but what I would like to just put forward is, again, to the broader work I think we're all in various ways in support of, is that we need, and in fact, Kehinde made a point similar that I would want to support as well, when he said we need to rebuild the OAAU. If we're going to keep referencing Malcolm, we need to rebuild the OAAU and give everyone a political apparatus to which they can contribute from wherever they are in this country, pushing forward a certain agreed upon, I would hope, very radical agenda. And then, that's the whole point about the after party idea. That's the whole point about, I think, all these other broader activist and organizational efforts, that we have to create a world where individual behavior is not so much of the focus and the blame for where people end up. So to say, fine, if you're in the suburbs and that's where you want to be and you're able to be, or where you were born and can't then realistically be expected to then go find some other. I mean, I just don't think that's, be where you are and contribute to this broader effort. And then
the propaganda is working on us, Jared. That's why we stuck in this. That's why we stuck looking inward. It's working.
That is true. It is working. Yeah, and I do struggle. I've always, again, I keep referencing it more and more lately, that at one point I had even hoped that Kamau and I could have written something on this, or that I should just do it by myself or something. But I would like, I really don't always know what, in part because one of the other problems that I don't know to the extent it got brought up today is that there is a general problem, obviously, with radical political organizing in any space. So it's not that those of us of certain incomes or placements geographically are struggling in some brand new way or in some entirely distinct way. Everybody is struggling to find ways to develop activist or organizational responses, and organizations, even in all Black cities and all Black communities, still struggle to find their place, to find their legs, so to speak, and to grow to a point where they can have the kind of meaningful impact that we would all want them to have. So on some level, that's why, again, we need to somehow continue to support and build these apparatuses that people can contribute to from wherever they are. And, you can call anyway. So that's it. That's it.
So, ladies, I know you had a time limit and we've already stretched that time limit. So I apologize, but I really didn't want y'all to leave. But is there anything that you want to add before you go? Is there anything that we didn't?
Jared's right. That's all I'm saying.
You just made it all day.
That's it. That's it. Show's over.
Mic drop.
I appreciate y'all so much. I appreciate Brokish. It has been a fantastic season. If y'all not watching, please do watch. We need to pick a shirt. We need to do a Brokish shirt. We gotta have.
Girl, then you know I got the logos. I just been too lazy to send them to you, Renee.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
We're gonna figure it out. I'm gonna remind you. We're gonna figure it out.
Not Pebbles slipping on her job, y'all.
Although Pebbles, aka Future Dr. Brown, has been busy doing other great work. So please do check those discussions.
True, the article was fantastic. Great
Salute
job
to you and Future Dr. Riley and Amber. Congratulations on the job and the continued good work with Brokish. It really is a great show. And I just heard from Diedrich the other day, who put me on to you all a couple of years ago. So I really appreciate it. So salute to Diedrich Muhammad as well.
Absolutely.
And thanks for this. But Pebbles is that's hilarious.
I can't. The strays, man. The strays.
This not stray. She on me. She like Cardi B on Bia.
Pretty and petty. Pretty and petty.
Hallelujah.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
Right. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.
So we got a few more minutes, and we're gonna have to cut like a little before 1 because I'm literally parked in the street like a block and a half from the stadium because we back in season now. Kickoff is at 1, so I gotta make sure I get the car parked where it's supposed to be so I can get inside. But I appreciate this conversation, and I hope I'm not embarrassing Samantha too much, but like being able to have conversations with people who I don't have to explain what I'm feeling because we're all like in the same, so we can actually just have a conversation about, okay, so what's the thing that needs to happen? How do we do this thing? How do we engage in like the next way that we're going to all work towards like collectively fighting for liberation? And I don't have to explain to you why I live where I live and like why I feel what I feel and why, like, it's so helpful, right? And I just, it's been, I think, especially in these past couple of years, as things have transitioned, and like even now, like as it's gotten, and I have to say, like, people have gotten a little more, I don't know if they've actually gotten more brazen or if it's just because everybody films everything now, so we see people's behavior like out in like real time, right? But like I saw a reel yesterday, like some white dude like shooting at a black guy in his neighborhood and yelling like, you better run, and like literally like just doing it just to be a dick, right? Now the white dude ended up getting arrested, and it's like this whole thing with the hate crime and like all those things. So there was actually like a semi-appropriate response, like, I guess, like, for whatever that means. But like, where things are getting so stressful that I wonder how much longer people can continue going about acting like these things are not happening, right? Like, how long can people pretend like there isn't an entire genocide happening in multiple places? How long can people pretend that like police are there to serve some purpose that, you know, is written on the side of the car when it actually has nothing to do with what they're doing, right? Like, how long can we keep going down this path of like not opening our eyes to the realities of the oppression and the empire in which we live? Like, how much longer we got to go before other people?
No, and I mean, you know, that's, you know, one of the things that I think that does emanate from our discussion and even the story I started with is that certainly the narrative that is evolving and been evolving and taking a new life after Kirk being killed is that that there is already a war here to be focused on that is being waged against this poor, defenseless white right wing by some amorphous left wing and allegedly, according to Trump, terrorist organization called Antifa that is simply an idea, not an actual entity. So I think connected to what I was saying earlier about, you know, the reverse side that many Black people, certainly as was the experience that I'm anecdotally referencing of my own, that are in these suburban spaces often see this as the finish line and don't want to and don't either see themselves as part of a struggle or want to be part of a struggle, given that they don't want to upset the current status. And then from the other side is this encouraged and then they're also, as I said earlier, getting an increasing amount of literature defending this Black capitalist and Black bourgeois spacing and even rebranding that as radical. And then the other side is rebranding a struggle that they need to take on to fight more internally here against the mud people and the savages and so on and so forth. It's making it, those issues I think are being used intentionally to make it harder to not only see what confronts us here more realistically, but definitely not to see what's happening overseas as being anything worthy of criticism, if even if any attention. So I, you know, but I don't know.
It's like a struggle. I don't, and even like the idea, going back to like the idea of like living in an all Black community and so forth and so on. Like, I went to a meeting week before last that was in the basement of a relatively popular church in Newark, and the meeting was being held because the Democratic candidate for governor was about to get the endorsement of the Democratic mayor of Newark. Now, you know, it was a room full of Black people outside of this candidate and some of her minions, right? And they're all like cheering and clapping for this, like, you know, this union of minds that's happening. And I'm sitting in the room and trying to understand if nobody heard her PSA on behalf of law enforcement and ICE that she did like the day before, right? Which is not at all beneficial to the community in which she was currently standing, and they were cheering, right? Or if anybody was paying attention to the fact that, you know, after this mayor got arrested, he's done nothing at all to be of assistance to the population of Newark that is being absolutely traumatized by the ICE agents that are allowed to like roam like roam around the city, right? And so at the same time, and just as you said, like this whole shifting of like what's revolutionary, right? Like, is it revolutionary to live amongst Black people if they think Democrats are the way to go? I dare say no. right? Like that's who your neighbors are, right? And
Well, I mean,
so
to me, at the point of where you live is deciding to want to live around Black people is fine if it's understood as that this is a cultural, social bias and not necessarily a politicized one.
right,
Because again, the there isn't an automatic radicalization happening in those spaces
right,
in the way that can't happen or can't be supported from somewhere else, and that's really the point.
right.
But like I said, but I don't, like I'm not where I live doesn't provide me my social life. Like I don't
No,
engage
right.
much with my neighbors like that. So I don't,
Yeah.
so I understand the value of saying I want to live around and be around Black people, but that's automatically going to be revolutionary. No.
And then the last thing that I want to bring up to you, because I'm curious if you've seen it. Speaking of Black capitalism. So the athletics company, the t-shirt company that is getting their cotton from the Black cotton plantation. Have you seen this?
No.
So and I didn't know if we were gonna have time. So I don't think I can find the link fast enough. But so there is a company that does athletic gear, and it's owned by a former professional athlete. And I wish I could. I'm like blanking on everything now because I really didn't think we were gonna have time, but I feel like we have enough time to talk about this. And I watched a reel today where they were talking about the fact that the t-shirts that they're getting made are being made by with cotton that's being grown at a cotton, like a cotton farm that's owned by Black people. And so the whole thing is like they're now the chain, like they're now the what's it called, oh my goodness, the whole chain from like the cotton to the shirt.
Oh,
Like
they're vertically integrated, or
no, it's more like what the means of production. So
oh,
they're saying
is it
like
actively Black?
that's it, that's it,
I have some of their stuff.
that's the one, that's the one. So I came across I came across a reel, and they're doing these specialized shirts, and the supply chain, and the cotton is coming from a yes, yes. I knew I saw that logo somewhere. That is where it's your shirt. That's where I've seen it.
And this
And
joint is
so
nice.
and
Anyway,
so the
yeah.
cotton is coming from a cotton farm that's owned by Black people, and they're gonna. So this is the whole thing is like from the dirt to the shirt is like his thing for these new t-shirts that they're selling. And so I wanted to send you on a mission because I feel like you send me often on missions, and I'd be curious to know, like, is this truly a full scale Black like, is it really like where the machines coming from, right? Because in the commercial they were standing in front of one of those, because now they say like cotton isn't picked by people anymore, cotton is, it's a machine process. So where did the machine come from that they're using to pick the cotton that's then going to go into the shirt?
It
Because
says
I
100% cotton, 100% Black owned. And as you said, from the, what is it? They got the whole thing. I'll look
right,
into it because I like their stuff.
yeah,
And contrary to some of my critics, I like to support a Black owned business.
right,
But,
right.
but,
I'm just curious because I think we've learned that people really grasp onto this Black capitalism thing, and they're very, and I think like this idea, like, well, we're getting the cotton from this farmland that's owned by white people. And I'm like, okay, but is the farm mortgaged?
mm,
And where your machines coming from? that you're using to pick the cotton.
Yeah,
and where your
exactly.
machine's coming from that you're using to physically make the shirts,
And
and
where did the
where's the
venture
ink
capital
coming from.
come to get all of this?
Right. So that's the part of it that I'm like,
Yeah.
is it really full, like the full chain?
Really, we would have to
Is
see
Black
it.
people?
We need to call it the 2 black supply chain test.
Yes,
And I'll see if
I like that.
I'll see if we can put it to the 2 black supply chain test.
Yes,
And
and
if
does
it
it
passes 2
pass the
black
test? Because I'm
analysis,
curious. I'm curious. I'm
absolutely.
curious.
Yeah, I'm curious too, because I got a couple of pieces from them. So like
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
when I
I
find,
you know,
I'll send you the video when I find it, because it was
okay.
like an interview and they were talking about, how it was important. Like they own the supply chain now. Like it's a reel from, from the dirt to the shirt. And I was like,
Yeah.
is it?
Let's see. Let's see if it can withstand the 2 black supply chain test and the Renee spreadsheet analysis. If you can make it past all of
Yeah.
that, then you really have done something.
Right.
So
And
we'll see.
listen, this is not to say we won't support, like if the stuff, if it's good quality and the stuff, like I love that hoodie that you have,
This
right?
hoodie is
And so,
incredibly good quality. Like
right.
the
So,
stuff is good quality. So I'm not like I wasn't expecting the full supply chain blackness even when I supported this. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like, so if they can,
Right.
but let's do it. Let's
Yeah. So I'm not, listen, this is not to say that even if they fail the test, we wouldn't support, but this is to make sure that we are very clear that not all, like, just because somebody is Black and they say this is Black owned and it's the Black supply chain, like they may, like, if all you're considering is where your cotton came from and who designs your shirts and who owns the company that sells the shirts. mm, mm,
Yeah, let's hey, we
yeah,
have that's what we do here. We develop methods.
that's
And
it.
we have the 2 black supply chain and the Renee spreadsheet methodology. There's you can't go wrong. So if we'll see, let's
There
see.
we
I
go.
love it. I love I love it.
Oh, all right, y'all. I appreciate you, Jared. This was good. I'm glad we got to work this out with the ladies coming on. This was a good
Absolutely. And
conversation.
absolutely. Big salute to you and to the sisters from Brokish. Please, everybody, make sure you're watching their program as well. As and Black Myths and all the programming here on Black Liberation Media. Make sure you have the bell rung, that you've liked, shared, subscribed. If you got a couple dollars, throw them at the Patreon, and invite others to do the same. So again, great job, Renee. Great job, Erica and Amber. And of course, to the undefeated chat. Peace, as always, as long as you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. And we'll see you next week with episode 104 of Saturday with Renee.